What's up, y'all? My name is Ian Edwards, and welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant. And normal service has been resumed. The Premier League is about to start back up on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas. And they have a full schedule. And we're going to talk about the Carabao Cup games yesterday and today. There was also a draw so we can see who are in the quarterfinals. Is that what it is, Lee?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals. And we're just going to talk about matchups in the Premier League coming up on Monday, Tuesday, anything Wednesday, and one game Wednesday. So what's up, y'all? We back. Got Lee, Hudson, stand-up comic, Southampton fan. What's up, fam?
I'm all good. It's looking forward to. I mean, I know we've had some club football with the Carabao Cup, but I'm looking forward to the full thing, the league football getting back underway. Boxing Day, it's going to be fun.
And then just tell everybody what you just told me, like you were just on your way back from somewhere.
So I had a show in Manchester last night, or just outside Manchester, and I was driving up. Obviously, from the south takes about 4 hours for me to get to Manchester. 3.5 on the way back when it was quiet, but 4 hours on the way up with traffic. And I stopped at like a rest stop, a service station just outside. I think it was, which one was I at? Kiel Services, which is like Staffordshire, Cheshire border. So about an hour and a bit south of Manchester. And it was nice because I've traveled like for shows over the last few weeks while the World Cup's been going on, and occasionally you'd see like some fans of maybe like some League One or League Two clubs or something, but this time it was really busy. There was a whole bunch of United fans traveling up for the game against Burnley. There was a bunch of Forest fans in there too, because they were playing away to Blackburn in the Carabao Cup. There was loads of conversations going on while we were queuing for food, because obviously Forest and United play on Boxing Day as well, so their fans were talking about that game, talking about their games that night. It's nice to see. I've missed that while the World Cup's been going on. Seeing all the fans on the road as well, and I joined in a little bit. Obviously, Forest fans and us, we're talking about who's more likely to go down.
Hilarious.
But
they said, I bet you the Forest fans said Southampton.
Or, we were both
confident.
We were both fighting for who's going to be the worst. I'm like, no, we're going down. They're like, no, we're going down. I was like, we're probably both going down.
That's hilarious.
It's not only one spot, but
guys, don't fight. There's enough room for the both of you to go down. You're good.
And one more. But no, they claim they've got some money to spend in January, the Forest fans. So
Jesus.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they go sign another 20 players or something.
What you just described just sounds like one of those Qatar fan zones, like the service station in England is like where all the fans meet up on their way to or back from a game. So it's almost like a Qatar fan zone. I didn't even know that happened. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's always fun. You see it a lot on, especially on Saturdays. Especially if you're somewhere in the middle of the country on a Saturday and you stop, there'll be people from so many different clubs. Like you see loads of people with the shirts on. On the way home, I passed the Forest team bus as well. It was on the motorway though, so it wasn't at a service stop. Otherwise, that could have been funny. But yeah, you see it a lot here. It's good fun. Sometimes I've seen it just on a couple of occasions. I've seen it get a little bit aggressive. But that's not for a few years that I've seen that. So it's generally quite good natured, good banter. But yeah, so it's a fun part of traveling around the country.
No, that's good to hear. That's good. That's definitely good to hear. Like, all the things I think about football, I just never thought about that part of it. And that would be some cool, fun shit to see,
Yeah, I mean, because it's such a small island with so many football teams, on a game on a day where there's, upwards of, 50 teams across all the leagues traveling, that's a lot of people on the roads.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Did you see the Man City versus Liverpool game, and what are your thoughts on it in the Carabao Cup?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been some other Carabao Cup games this week, but that was like the flagship one. Happened a few hours ago, and it was a fun one to watch. But I just never get tired of watching De Bruyne put on a masterclass every time he steps on the field. Well, especially in a City shirt. For Belgium, maybe he didn't quite have. I don't know. It didn't quite happen for him, but in a City shirt, I mean, some of the
A
balls
poor
he
guy.
plays.
I know, poor guy. For Belgium, he has unfit Lukaku on the end of his passes, but for Man City, he has an eager waiting in top form Haaland, who's like, when you all getting back from this World Cup so I can do this again? Like waiting for the end of his passes.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the guy's a monster as well. You put the ball in the box, he's got those long legs. Like he scored another goal tonight where he's off the ground and he just gets those legs out and in the front of the defenders and puts it away. But I mean, my favourite pass of the night was one that didn't even result in a goal. It was De Bruyne whipped a deep cross in for Ake that Ake headed it sort of fairly softly at the keeper. But the cross that De Bruyne put in for that, the whip on the ball and the accuracy was just unreal. But I just love watching him. But then it was fun watching some of the kids for City as well. Like I think like Cole Palmer he looks talented.
He looked like he was away at the World Cup the way he played today. Like he's talented and I'm sure he has a great future. But like there was one ball, I think Haaland put it on the dime for him.
Yeah.
And you could tell that he's really, I guess it's weird now in football for you to be left-footed and play on the left. Because he almost passed that ball back to Haaland and said, "Oh, bro, you're right in front of the goal. Put it in the goal."
Yeah, his finishing's definitely still got some work to do, but I mean everything else the guy does, like he's someone who every time he passes the ball, you can see how technically gifted he is. Obviously, you have to be more clinical if he wants a space in that team, or to challenge for a space in that team. But he can't be that far off. And Pep obviously trusts him because he's played him in some Champions League games as well. So he's definitely one that's knocking on the door. And talking of technique, I mean that Mahrez goal that was an unreal first touch, just to kill the ball and put it in a place where he could then just step into it and strike it into the corner like he did off a high pass. Like that ball had traveled. That wasn't an easy one touch bring down. Like he did that. He made that look so easy, and it's not. Like that's a really difficult piece of skill that he pulled off there. And that was, it's just fun watching those guys.
Yeah, we could tell what Mahrez has been working on while he wasn't at the World Cup. And it's that, it's, the way to kill the ball and take the defender out of the play is like bananas. And then hit the ball up exactly where you want that shit to be to take the shot with all in one play. So then it's just like, you created a tap in for himself, basically. That was a lit goal.
Yeah, and obviously not all City as well. I mean, Liverpool had some moments. I think City obviously they dominated the game. I thought they deserved the win. But I mean, I know he missed a couple of chances, but Nunez looked lively. He was running that left channel regularly, trying to get in behind, and obviously he did for the one he set up for Salah. The goal that Carvalho scored though, I thought was kind of, or was it the Salah one? I thought the goalkeeper was, I think it was the second goal. The goalkeeper was quite suspect for Salah's goal for Ortega. He sort of left the goal wide open for Salah when he didn't really need to go out as far as he did when the cross was coming over. Because as soon as it got squared, like Salah just had to roll it in. Whereas if Ortega had kind of had his positioning better, he could have made him, he could have made a save or made Salah at least have to finish a bit stronger. But yeah, you can see why he's the City number 2 by a long way. But yeah, it's not much you could do about Carvalho's goal. It was definitely the second one where I thought he could have positioned better. The first one, Carvalho just finished that well low. But yeah, I mean, both teams, neither of them played full strength teams. They had some of the guys out there, like all the England players were on the bench for City. None of them started. They had some World Cup players there, and obviously Liverpool rested a few. Firmino's out injured, Jota's out injured. So they gave some people a chance. But yeah, it was a fun one to watch. I enjoyed that tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they did field pretty strong teams, like with just a few exceptions. Like Man City introduced Lewis, who did a pretty good job and has some speed and a future just based on this game. Because, it's a Carabao Cup game. You're playing Liverpool, who has been like whenever the Premier League flourishes, it's because at any given moment, there are two top teams that go at each other for the title every year. It used to be United versus Arsenal, then United Chelsea. It was United everybody for a minute. It hasn't been the case now. But the main case, then it was United Man City, and then United dropped out, and then now it's Man City, Liverpool. And Liverpool, this is one of their only few chances based on where they are in the table right now for them to win something this year. So I wouldn't say that they went into this game lightheartedly, and Pep wants to win everything and Klopp wants to win everything. So for Lewis to be in this game, you know, I think he acquitted himself pretty well. It's not like, all right, this is a one-off. And it's a weird game too, if you're a coach, because Pep at some point took out Haaland because these teams haven't been running full games. They've had some pre-season, mid-season games. And it's weird to have, number one, 2 pre-seasons in one season, but that's what's happened because of the World Cup. So that's all weird too. So then you have to get your players integrated back into the team and playing with each other and playing 90 minutes. So at some point in the game, even though this is a Carabao Cup game, it's a knockout game. If you lose, you go home. You still have to like get your players who are at the World Cup integrated back at the team. So at some point, Pep took out Haaland, which is kind of crazy because you want to win the game, but you're still putting in quality players. You're putting in Foden and Grealish, but in any team, you take out a Haaland, whoever you replace him with is a downgrade, and no disrespect to them. So you're taking a risk. So it's good that Pep got to experiment, do that, and then still like win the game, because he definitely would have been criticized if Liverpool, who were dangerous all game, like you were saying with Darwin Nunez, he's off. He missed. He had 4 shots, and he could have did better. Great assist to Salah, but yeah, he's got to work on like his angles on the right and how to put the ball past the keeper. And
a couple of good positions, didn't he, where he dragged it wide.
Yeah. So he's got to come back on his composure. But I believe in him as a player. I think he's going to be pretty dangerous. Yeah. Just the runs he made and knowing where to be to get these opportunities is pretty dope. So yeah, I believe in the danger that he could be.
The angle though that he was getting tonight, I mean, you saw someone last night who fully knew how to finish from that angle. Your boy Rashford.
Who could that be? Who could that be? Marcus motherfucking Rashford. Yeah. So he's definitely getting better. And I don't know it was Burnley, but it's the top team in the championship, and top teams in the championship. I mean, you could be leading the championship at that. It's so early, so I can't say nothing. But they seem to have Vincent Kompany, good coach so far. So, and I think last year, Man United got knocked out of the FA Cup or the League Cup by a championship team like Milford or something like that. So you want to beat these teams. And yesterday, Rashford came in, and that goal is definitely going on his highlight reel. Like the dribble is like I've been watching a lot of Messi dribbling videos. Yeah, and this was like as Messi-esque as I've ever seen Rashford. He normally uses his speed to get past people, but this is a combination of speed, close ball control, and then the placement of the ball in the back of the net. So just keep doing what you're doing, Marcus. You're back, you're coming back, and you could be better than you were even when we rated you. This could be a pretty amazing thing. I was disappointed in Martial that he didn't get any goals yesterday, but at least he
forced the keeper into a good save on that one where it got squared to him on the edge of the box, and he did well to control the ball and then work the yard to get the shot off. But I mean, the keeper pulled off a fairly good save.
Yeah, he gets miserable though when he doesn't score.
He's French. That's what happens.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
He's got that moodiness. He never looks happy. Even when he scores, he doesn't look happy. He's still But I mean, I thought you guys played well from the bits I saw on the highlights. Like you say, Burnley are they're probably going to be a Premier League team again next season. Most of their players played in the Premier League over the last few years for Dyche as well. So they got good players in there. And I mean, that first goal was lovely as well. The pick from Fernandes to find Wan-Bissaka on that run on the right side. And Wan-Bissaka did so well to put that ball exactly where Eriksen needed it as well.
Yeah,
That was a
Wan-Bissaka,
nice goal.
everybody has written off because they say he doesn't go forward and he doesn't cross the ball. He did exactly what everybody's been saying he doesn't do. So now everybody's like, their eyebrows are raised. Like, wait a minute, do we have to get rid of him?
I mean,
go ahead.
You said you knew what Mahrez has been working on over the World Cup break. Now we see what Wan-Bissaka has been working on as well.
Yeah. He's like, y'all trying to get me out of this team? Fuck y'all. Because I think Wan-Bissaka do have a lot of qualities. And why can't somebody taught to become forward, to move forward more? You know, it's like, and when did we make in somebody being a good defender? England is so funny. Like Trent Arnold, he comes forward too much. He doesn't go back enough, you know, and if they completely trash his offensive game for some lapses, where Liverpool still overall had a great season, won 2 trophies, and we're in 4 finals. And it's like, so they trash him. But then now Wan-Bissaka, the complete opposite. He doesn't come forward enough. So what if he's a good defender? How does that help? And it's like you can't win in England, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's what the good point now, where you've got someone like Ten Hag's not just a manager, he's a coach as well. Like he can coach. Because there's some managers who they have like a team of people who coach for them, and they're just like, you know, the figurehead, and they pick the team and they deal with the interpersonal stuff. But Ten Hag can coach as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if he has, like, I mean, we joke about it, but if he has been working with, you know, Wan-Bissaka on that sort of stuff, because if he's got those defensive attributes, like you're saying, he's good, then why can't he be taught the other things? Because it's not like he's
got the
scratch.
main thing down.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing you can't teach, he's got. So
yeah,
you could teach him the thing that he, you know, which is an extra quality. He could get that.
Yeah, and he's a professional footballer, so he's going to have a base level of technique. He's quite a quick player as well, so if you can teach him the timing of those runs and the positioning of those runs, he's got the physical attributes to put himself in those right positions, and that's what he did with that one. I mean, he timed the run perfectly. Bruno Fernandes found the pass perfectly, and then he executed that ball across the face of goal. Like, he couldn't have done it any better. That was, like I say, but he put it exactly where Eriksen needed him to put it, and that was, it was a beautiful goal.
Yeah, and the way Manchester United likes to play, like they have this attacking line where they're all in line with the opposition defenders, and to have extra options to pass in between the defensive lines, like the fullbacks are like in line with the forwards, and he was there in line with the forwards, raising his hand, going like, "Let me get that." So he's already mentality-wise, he's in the right position, and then the cross is a little bit beyond that, and then he gets to it, and it's like, "Let me one time this in," and he did, and gets to Eriksen, which it was a beautiful goal, and I know everybody was like, "Was that Wan-Bissaka?" Okay. All right, okay, we just keep monitoring this situation. I want to give Burnley props though, because like you said, like they are under what's his name, Vincent Company, they played impressive yesterday. Like they had 44% of the ball, and it wasn't a bullshit possession. And you know, they tried to play out the back. Sometimes they could, and sometimes they couldn't, but they were determined. And a lot of times they did, and you know, they had the ball sometime. And I was like, hey man, why do they got the ball? But you know, it's our job when another team can hold on the ball to keep our composure and keep our structure and deal with it. And we did. And is it Chris Wood? Let me see who they have as a holdover from the Sean Dykes days.
They got
because
Barnes, Newcastle.
He blew. Yeah, so Barnes. I always get Woods and Barnes mixed up, but Barnes blew pretty much at least 2 sitters.
Yeah.
Like one was definitely like, you should have put that in the net. And at that point it was 1-1. It was 1-0. So that was a really dangerous moment.
Yeah,
And
I know.
lucky he let off
Dubravka
us.
had to make a good save at one point, and then there was the other one where the Dubravka fuck up where he didn't
Bro,
even get anywhere near that cross, and Casemiro had to bail him out on the line.
Dubravka was not looking good, man. It was not a good look for Dubravka. The multiple mistakes. There was one pass that was right back to him, and he kicked over it. He had to run and chase it and stop it before it went over the line. It's a good thing the pass didn't have that much pace on it. So, yeah, Dubravka, like if we're playing a game and De Gea gets injured and he has to come in, I would clench my butt cheeks the entire for the rest of that game. He's did not look good yesterday at all. But we won. And what about Southampton? How did y'all fare in your game?
We beat Lincoln 2-1.
Oh shit!
Nathan Jones's first home game. I mean, we made hard work of it a little bit. We went 1-0 down. It was a really scrappy goal that we conceded to start with. It was off a corner. We sort of only half cleared it. The ball went back in. One of their players challenged with our keeper, and our keeper ended up punching it into his own net. But I mean, overall, though, we dominated the game. We had, just looking at the stats here, we had 69% possession. We had 16 shots, 6 on target. They only had 2 shots on target out of 5. So we played how you would expect us to play against a League One team. We dominated, but it was the same old story from us that we're lacking a clinical striker. Shea Adams scored 2, but he should have scored 5. And in a Premier League,
snap.
in the Premier League, you don't get that leniency. Like, you get maybe 1 or 2 chances where you need to finish, and on some days he can do it. There is a good player in there, but I mean, Adam Armstrong was playing up front with him. He didn't look very convincing.
Oh boy.
Stuart Armstrong was better when he came on as a sub, but I mean, we played a fairly strong
team. Couldn't have been worse.
But we played 5 at the back, or 3 at the back with wing backs to begin with, and then we switched to play a back 4, and we looked better after the switch. Nathan Jones likes playing with the 3 centre backs, but he said he's not. In the interviews afterwards, he got sort of questioned over the tactics and changing it around, and he sort of said that he's not like committed to one system. He'll play whatever he feels he needs to win games. So I think he was trying his preferred system, but it hasn't quite worked. So it'd be interesting to see what we start with against Brighton.
Didn't your ex-coach try that? The 3 at the back was not a problem.
Yeah, Ralph Hasenhüttl did it at the start of the season. It was terrible, and then we started getting results for a brief period anyway, when he switched that back to a back 4. So, but I mean, different coaches coach different formations different ways. So, it might turn out to be good, it might not. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to be looking for a striker in the window. I don't know whether or not we'll get one of the sufficient quality, because January is a hard time to buy a player like that, especially when you're on a sort of, not a massive budget like we are. So it'd be interesting to see what we can find. There were some bright moments, and there were some embarrassing misses in that game as well. Like I say, we should have really made this way more comfortable than we should. There was one where Shea Adams had all the time in the world. He could have squared to someone, but he just carried on with the ball because he was a hat-trick at that point, and then he ended up going too far wide and letting the keeper save it. There was another one where El Yunusi...
You put that, you put that one in the chat, and it was so Messi-esque until it was Shea Adams-esque. He's chopping people, he's beating people in front of goals, going wider and wider and wider, and then he realizes, like, I don't know how to get out of this, and I can't, and he didn't. And then you're like, he went from Shea Adams to Messi to Shea Adams, like all in one play. Yeah.
But then we had another big one as well where El Yunusi was clean through, and he squared the ball to Edozie, the young kid we signed from Man City. And all he had to do was put it in the net. It was an open goal, but he kind of scuffed it and it went wide. But apart from that, Edozie looked really good. He came on as a sub. He looked really lively. The kid's got skill. He's a really good 1v1 attacker. Lots of twists and turns, lots of skills. So he'll be a good player. I think he's only like 19 or 20 years old. He's pretty young.
And what's his name?
Samuel Edozie, Edozie.
He's played for you all this season, right?
Yeah, he's played a couple of games off the bench.
Right.
Hasn't really started much, but yeah, he's just looking. Oh, he's 19 years old. But yeah, he'll get there. It'll be interesting because he's a winger, and obviously if we play 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, we don't play with wingers in that system. So it'll be interesting to see, like I say, how Nathan Jones decides he's going to get the best out of this squad, because we've got the players to play a back three. We've also got the players to play a back four. So, and obviously the players ahead of that. So it'll be interesting how that pans out. But yeah, the Brighton game. I mean, Brighton had their own troubles. They got knocked out the Carabao Cup to Charlton on penalties. It was 0-0. Brighton played a strong team. They started most of their starting players. Mitoma came off the bench. Trossard and Estupinan came off the bench as well. Like they had a lot of their top guns out there, and so they had a problem. So two teams who didn't really play to their best in the Carabao Cup facing off this weekend. But I mean, Brighton have got to be favourites, just because almost anyone that plays us is favourites right now. So
Hilarious. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing about the Caribou Cup. Like we beat Burnley, and you could be like, "Hey, it's just Burnley," but then you could point to other teams. Like Brighton ain't far from us in the table, and they got knocked out the contest. Yeah, like right behind us. So it's like they beat us, and they beat us this season. So hey, man, like,
have you seen the draw for the next round?
Yeah, how do I get to that? Well, just tell me.
I can tell
I
you.
know we
So
got somebody we could beat.
you
I
got
know that.
Charlton. You got
Yeah, that's
Charlton
what we got.
who knocked out
Brighton.
Brighton. So that'll be interesting. I mean, we beat Lincoln. Guess who we get?
Oh,
Man
shit.
City.
Oh,
We're at home at least, which I guess is something. But I mean,
you've been known to give Man City some trouble.
We have. But I mean, I don't know this one. I mean, anytime you play Man City, they're like you're expecting a Man City win. So that'll be interesting. There's Forest Wolves, which that's pretty boring, and Leicester Newcastle, which is a league game this weekend as well. So they get to do a little dress rehearsal for that.
So Wolves played, right? And that was their
Yeah,
first game with what's his name?
Lopetegui.
Lopetegui, yeah.
Yeah, they won 2-0 against Gillingham, but they were late goals as well right at the end. Gillingham aren't a very good team. They're like near the bottom of League Two.
Right.
So, yeah, for Wolves to win that one only 2-0. But, I mean, it's hard to judge fully on these games because obviously it's teams' first games back.
But it's great. It's almost like you get a pre-season.
Yeah.
You know, in a kind of like serious competition. Like, so it kind of adds something to the players' like edge, but you're getting them back ready for like Monday. But it's a good accidental way for them to come back after the World Cup. So just to have this competition to some teams. So I think it's a good way for Man U to start integrating their players back. Man City, Liverpool, even though they lost, for you guys, you got a new coach. So it's great for him to have this competition to, even though I'm sure you play some behind closed door games, it's still good to be in a real thing with some jeopardy to it. And also,
like you say, it's a stadium.
Yeah.
It's a stadium for the fans. You're playing against an opposition that are trying their hardest to beat you as well. And a lot of these games as well, because we're playing against EFL teams, they're teams whose seasons haven't stopped. So these guys are like the Lincoln team we played, they've been playing games. Gillingham, who Wolves played, they've been playing games. So you know, their teams who are like in the midst of it, and you know, they're on a roll kind of thing in terms of match fitness. So that might have been a little bit of a leveler.
Yeah, even for Burnley, they just played 2 games together before they played us. They won them, and at moments in their game against us, they looked like better than us, but our individuals showed up at moments, and you could tell that they just had their shit together more than we did. And you could tell like 15 players leaving for the World Cup really affected us where they're playing and they're together. So yeah. You want to slide over to the Sting. that we used to talk about all the time called the Premier League. It's a
Boxing Day, baby.
Boxing Day football is back. Let me see what these games are. I don't even have the Premier League on my phone anymore on automatic. It's been that long. Let me see. I gotta
Well,
bring it up.
Brentford Tottenham's the early game, so it's unfortunate that we have to start with Tottenham, I guess.
The Gambler versus Harry Kane.
Well, I don't think the Gambler will be playing.
I think I was listening to something and he can play until he's guilty.
Okay.
You know? So, but don't quote me on that,
Yeah.
So he's just been gambling on games and he's not allowed to. Once you're in the Premier League or a player, or you're a ref or you're an attorney for the players or an agent, from what I'm supposed to hearing, that you're not supposed to be able to, gamble.
Anything that might give you inside knowledge. So yeah, like coaches, players, people around the clubs.
Right.
Yeah, you're not meant to. But I still don't know what he's been gambling on. He could have because there's like 230 something counts. I mean, he could have been gambling on, I don't know, he could have been gambling on the South Korean league for all I know. And technically, he could have inside knowledge, but he probably hasn't. Or those 230 something things, he could have been betting on like teams where he knows players or even his own team. So that's the unknown at the moment with Ivan Toney. I don't know the severity of it. And I think that will dictate the severity of the punishment as well. So it's all a bit unknown still. It's still a little bit mysterious about what he's actually done. The fact that there's so many counts of it, doesn't bode well for him. But like I say, if he's been betting on games that he has no real knowledge of, and whether or not he's maybe, I think he probably does have a problem if he's betting that much. So who knows? But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I hope for his sake and just for football's sake that it's not a super serious one and he doesn't get taken out of the game for a long time if he's just been gambling on, random games. But if there's anything that suggests it's maybe some match fixing involved or anything, then yeah, like I say, he's got a problem. But I hope for his sake and for football's sake he hasn't, because you don't really want to see that sort of thing. Like it's a shame if someone who does a thing they love for a living and then they just get pulled away from that. But I just hope whatever the punishment is, it matches the severity of the crime.
Especially for someone who's worked his way up through the leagues to get in the Premier League, and now you're finally here. You're making noise. You're being considered for the England squad, and then you get hit with these gambling things. It's like, you definitely hope that this works itself out in his favor, because you don't want to see his career thrown away like that he worked so hard for. And then maybe, this happening, getting kind of accused, will, if he didn't do it, fine. But if he did do it, this will shake him up, straighten him out. Sometimes you need that rock bottom, slap you in the face. But Brentford versus Tottenham, at Brentford, it's the first game, 4:30 a.m. So I'm back at it to the World Cup / Premier League times in the morning. But yeah, we haven't seen Tottenham play in a minute. We haven't seen Brentford play in a minute. Brentford were doing decent. Like they won their last game at the end of the before the season took the break for the World Cup. And Tony, I think he scored 2 goals or some shit like that.
Yeah, they got the win against Man City just after he was left out the World Cup squad. Obviously, he sent his little message to Southgate. Obviously, that was when none of us knew what was going on behind the scenes as well, which Southgate might well have. So yeah, if they can do that again against Tottenham, if he does play, I'll be pretty happy with that.
This could be a problem for Tottenham. And then is Conte and them, is Tottenham going to play the way that Tottenham has been playing? That's the thing. Is Tottenham playing the way their fans are complaining about because their midfielders are not good enough to play the way, like Conte definitely wants to play this way, but he wants to play this way better. And is this a personnel problem? It
Yeah.
feels like, because everybody I see that they're getting linked to seems to be a midfielder.
Yeah. Not sure. It's a weird one. Like, obviously, that is his style. That's how he likes to play.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think it. I mean, the way they were playing before, it was just too. It was too passive. Like, you can play counter-attack football without completely surrendering like everything in games, and they got away with it against some teams. But it was a real big problem for them every time they played against someone good. Like, they tried to do it against Arsenal. Obviously, Arsenal have got players who can pick apart a low block. They've got players who can find the gaps, and they punish them. You know, you've improved a lot under Ten Hag, and when they tried that shit against you, you guys just pulled it apart because you've got clever players like Fernandes, like Ericsson, who can do that sort of stuff. They did it against Liverpool at their home ground. Liverpool pulled it apart. They did it against Newcastle. Newcastle pulled it apart. So, you know, every time they've faced strong opposition this year, I mean, Chelsea did it to a degree against them. Obviously, Tottenham got lucky getting the draw out of that game with some, you know, controversial goals. But every time they've done it against good teams, they've got pulled apart. They were very lucky to get through their Champions League group because they, you know, tried that against Marseille and Sporting, teams that they should be going out and playing on the front foot against. And that's what I haven't really understood about them, is that there's been a lot of games. I mean, some of those games they tried to play a bit more on the front foot, and I think they did better in those games. But
they play
like,
on the front foot when they're down, like
yeah,
second half. That so
yeah,
they have the front foot in them, and that's the funny thing is like one team, was it Marseille? They were down 2-0, or even
yeah,
in the Premier League, they've been down 2-0, and then they start attacking, and then they get the 2 goals back, and they don't let in any goals. So you're actually being as defensive as you want to be while you're attacking. So why
yeah.
not get on the front foot immediately, because it's helping you defend? But
Yeah,
that's
they turned
Conte.
it.
That's the way he wants to play.
Yeah, they turned it around against Sporting, I think, in the Champions League, and they turned it around against Bournemouth in the league, and someone else at home not that long ago they did it again as well. And it's like, you know, just because like they're playing like a small team. They're playing like a small team that are at a disadvantage in a cup game or something. It's like, no, you've got Harry Kane, you've got one of the best forwards in the world. You've got Son, who's also one of the best forwards in the world. Like, don't play these guys 60 yards, 70 yards away from the opposition goal. You want those guys playing close to goal. I know, and there are times when, you know, they've got, because like Kane can be quite useful on the counter attack because he can pick a pass. Son's good on the counter attack because, you know, he's got the legs. But you don't need to do that every single game. Like, there are games when you can go out and dominate teams. They've got midfielders who are like, you know, like Bentancur and Højbjerg are both fairly comfortable on the ball. They've got Bissouma as well. They've got players who, you know, are comfortable playing that way. It's just a bit of an odd way to play. But most rational, level-headed Spurs fans I know, obviously we know some that aren't, but most rational Spurs fans I know, like, they're not enjoying watching Spurs right now. They're not happy with having them play like that every week and seeing that sort of football, because, you know, even though Spurs don't win trophies at all, that's part of their DNA. One thing that they've prided themselves on previously has been like playing good football. That was their trophy, I think. And they're not even getting that now. So, you know, I hope for their sake that the ugly football gets them a trophy, because otherwise they're just going to have ugly football and no trophies, which that's a pretty dire mix. And I'm not counting qualifying for Champions League as a trophy. That should be, you know, that should be a given if you're throwing money around and stuff. So yeah, we'll see. But I mean, this will be an interesting game. I can see Spurs scraping it, but I mean, a lot of these games are up in the air coming back. You don't really know what sort of form teams are going to be going in with.
Yeah, we don't know what the break did to people, and we'll find out. Like, as far as the Brentford Tottenham, like, my advice to Conte is at least attack first, because you can attack and not give up goals. And then when you get the goal, then you sit back and then you counter, because the team's more desperate. They're more likely to make the mistakes that you want them to make and leave the gaps that you want. So play your style, but if you could beat a team, attack them first, and then if you get a goal, yeah, then you can sit back and hold on to your lead and counter. But just just consider that. And it's also the irony that their most attacking player likes to play away from the attacking area too. So it probably doesn't help that Harry Kane doesn't stay in the box, you know. So so when Spurs look bad, they just look bad, you know. What do you think of your chances up against Brighton? Did we talk about that already?
No, we sort of touched on it, but no, it's again, it's like, I mean, the Premier League is unpredictable at the best of times, and it's super unpredictable in these first games back. I mean, you'd have to make Brighton favourites, like I say, because anyone against us is favourites at the moment because of where we are in the league. And I think Brighton do have a better squad than ours right now. But I mean, at home we can pull good performances out. We've done it against big teams this year. We drew against Arsenal at home. We beat Chelsea at home. So we've got it in us to do it. Still obviously trying to figure out exactly what the new manager's style is with us and what formation he's going to play. So at least that keeps Brighton guessing as well. But they're going to come out. The new manager likes to attack. He likes to press. So if we're doing that as well, it could be quite an open game. It could be a lot of goals in this game. I don't think it's going to be a 0-0. That's for sure. So it'll be an interesting one. I mean, I if someone offered me a draw right now, I'd take it. I'd take the point because Brighton are a good team. I think they'll be without McAllister, so that will hurt them a little bit, but they've still got a lot of good players. Like I say, Trossard's back, Mitoma's there. He had a good World Cup as well, so they've got players who can hurt us for sure. And it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I'd take a point. We'll see what we can do, but I'll take a point to get us going again for the second part of the season.
Second part of the season. I just want to bring up one point that I forgot to mention about Brentford, and then I got a question to ask you about Southampton versus Brighton. So as far as Brentford versus Tottenham, the irony is that Basuma played for like a mid-table Brighton. But when you normally play for a mid-table team, you're the team that sits back, plays full block, and waits for a moment and scores. But the irony was that the Brighton mid-table team that he played for was actually a very attacking team. So then he gets bought by a team at the top of the table, in the top 5 / that's top 6. And that team starts to play like a mid-table team, and plays low block and sits back. So he must be like in confusion land right now. I was like, wait a minute, I'm in the top part of the table with a top part of the table team, but we're playing like the team I was on should have been playing, and the team that I used to be on is playing like how this team should be playing. So Bissouma must be like, what the fuck is going on here? But as far as Southampton,
going back to that point so quickly though, like that's a good point, because Spurs are trying to buy people in this window, and it depends what sort of player they're trying to buy. But people might look at how Tottenham have played the first half of the season and gone, like, do I want to do that? Like, am I going to enjoy going to a club and playing and just sitting in my own half, like looking for counter-attacks? Like, or do I want to play for a club where I'm going to go express myself? Like, they're after like Amrabat from Morocco. It's like, he's better than that. He's got skills that can be used all over the pitch. Like, I'm sure he could play within that system, but whether or not he would enjoy playing in that system is another thing. Or would he enjoy going to Liverpool and playing with more freedom? Would he enjoy going to Chelsea and playing with more freedom?
Definitely love Liverpool more if I was Amrabat. Yeah.
Yeah. So Amrabat's a player who could do a job in that system. But I mean, if it comes down to, if clubs are offering him similar money, and it's like, well, where am I going to enjoy playing? Like, I don't think anyone would enjoy playing in Conte's system right now, because it just seems a miserable style to watch. And I'm pretty sure, like, all the players I've coached as well, like, I've never found it an easy sell to coach players to sit and defend and look for counterattacks. Like, sometimes it's a legitimate game plan. Sometimes it's an effective game plan in certain situations. But if that's your default setting, like every week we're going to do this, like, I mean, I've never coached like that. I've only ever done it for like one-off occasions, but none of the players I've ever worked with have ever wanted to do that. Like, as a default, players generally want to press. They generally want to play high up the pitch. They want to be on the front foot. It's it's a strange one. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see who they do attract based on that.
Right. That's why on Monday night, when I do play football occasionally, there's so many goals because nobody wants to sit back.
Exactly.
You have to beg someone to defend. So yeah, that's for football on all the levels. Brighton Southampton. So this is a matchup between two teams with new coaches, but one coach is newer than the other. So
yeah.
I know Brighton, they don't sit back. They like to attack. What's your overall style of this new coach that Southampton has?
He's quite flexible though, because like I mean, it's hard to judge so far because his first game, and he'd only had like a week to prep for it, or a few days to prep for it.
The team that he was with, like what's
with
his
Luton?
MO? Yeah, Luton.
Again,
MO.
he was flexible. Like when he was in League One with them, they played good football. They played quite expansively, and then when they got to the Championship, the budget was one of the smallest in the Championship. And he looked at that and went, well, I'm going to play quite direct, quite physical, quite defensively solid football. But he said he did that because he had to. Like he had the smallest budget. He couldn't go out and get the players to play a different style against teams with bigger budgets and better players. So he played that way, and he got them into the playoffs. And there were times when they played good football as well when he thought they could. So he seems quite a flexible manager. He's not like completely wedded to one style. I think he wants to press though, from what I've heard. But I mean, we played Liverpool in our first game. You can't really judge too much off that. And then we played a League One team in the Carabao Cup. So it's gone from one extreme all the way to the other. So it's hard to read too much into those games. Obviously against Lincoln, like I say, we dominated the ball against Lincoln, which we couldn't do at Anfield against Liverpool.
Which Conte wouldn't have done against Lincoln.
Yeah, he would have played like an even smaller team than Lincoln against Lincoln. So yeah, I think Brighton will be an interesting one because I mean I like Brighton. They deserve a lot of respect for what they've done. But I think if he feels he can get at them, he will. Like I don't think he'll, especially like first league game at home. I think he'll want to play on the front foot, and that could set the tone. So it'll be interesting. I hope we do have a go at them because they like to press and they're quite aggressive. I think if we sit too deep, they'll kind of pin us in a little bit. So I hope we try and flip it and get at them. But like I say, I think that'll lead to it being an open game. So it could be a fun one to watch from a neutral perspective. Anyway, I might be nervous.
Yeah, you will be. I guess we can't talk about all the games. This is a full slate. But one game that we talked about before the podcast started, we was talking about Leicester Newcastle being the most interesting game in the 7 a.m. slot for LA people on Monday. So I definitely want to
3 p.m. for the UK.
Yeah, 3 p.m. for the UK. You get a decent hour. But yeah, that's the game I'll probably watch at 7 a.m. when there's 4 other games on. And Everton Wolves is also interesting. Crystal Palace and Fulham. Actually, Crystal Palace Fulham, pretty interesting game. And Everton Wolves, like they got the new Lopetegui, so his first Premier League game versus, what's Lampard doing? What did Lampard do with this Everton squad during the break? I don't think there was any Everton players at the World Cup, were there? I don't think so, man. So it'll be interesting to see what was going on there. And then coming up later on Monday, Liverpool, who just lost to Man City in the Carabao Cup, versus Aston Villa with their new coach. There's so many new coaches in the Premier League now. Like this, it happened. We knew it was happening, but now that I'm going down this list, I'm like, wait a minute, there's a considerable number of new coaches. And maybe we didn't talk about all these firings or these new hirings because the World Cup was coming up and it kind of got overshadowed. But another new manager, Unai Emery, who's been here before, but this time with Villa, and he's gotten some results with Villa already versus Liverpool. So this won't be an easy game for Liverpool. So what's your thoughts, just on that joint?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I like Emery. His record speaks for itself. Even at Arsenal, he didn't do that badly. He got to Europa League final. It was a tough time coming in after Wenger. It was a transitional period for Arsenal, so it's hard to judge him on that. But you look at what he did at Sevilla. The guy was just a serial trophy winner. At Villarreal, he did the same as well.
He beat Liverpool, didn't he, for Europa League?
Yeah, so Sevilla, he beat Klopp in a final. Yeah, I think he won like either 3 or 4 Europa League finals for Sevilla, which was nuts. He obviously beat you guys for Villarreal as well.
Yeah, man, you don't
Europa League
final. That's unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary. I know what he did to us.
And then he got to a Champions League semi-final as well with them. So the guy, he's a very good manager. I don't think he quite gets the respect he deserves. Sometimes people, make fun of his accent and stuff. The whole good evening thing, but I mean, don't let that fool you. The guy's a tactician. He knows what he's doing, and I think it's exciting times for Villa as well, because throughout his career he's been known to play 4-4-2. It's his preferred formation, and Villa have 2 really good forwards in Ollie Watkins and Danny Ings. If he can get those 2 playing together, and if he can then, even him coming in seems to have got a little bit more out of Leon Bailey as well. So if you can have, those 2 up front and Bailey on one wing and then Buendia or someone on the other wing, maybe, like, that's a good team. And they've got some good young players that will benefit from his coaching, like Ramsey as well. They look good when they played you guys just before the break as well.
Yeah, they beat us one game.
Yeah.
And then I think we played them right again afterwards in the cup.
We beat them in the Carabao Cup, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting, and I think they'll give Liverpool a game. I think Liverpool again, you should make them favourites because they're Liverpool and they've got players like Salah who are a level that Villa don't possess. But Villa could quite easily win that game if they carry some of their form pre World Cup into this game. And Emery's had even longer to work with them now as well. I don't know if they had that many players go to the World Cup. So yeah, apart from obviously Martinez, but he's going to come back absolutely on cloud 9.
Yeah, and he probably won't be back this Monday. But so the thing about Emi Martinez, right? Like Villa is in trouble as far as he's concerned, because I'm talking to Lloyd, diehard Villa fan, season ticket holder, been to Villa games with him, and I was kind of fucking with him, teasing him because I saw a very dangerous post about Bayern Munich looking at Emi Martinez. They need a goalkeeper because what's his name hurt himself in a ski accident, so he's done for the season. So it looked like a legit, like, it's not one of those like just rumor posts. It looked like why not? Why wouldn't they go after him? But on top of that, when Unai was at Arsenal, he sent Martinez out on loan. So I heard they didn't get along. So all those like loan stints, or some of them that he did, like at Oxford and other places that you mentioned, like Unai was responsible for that. So now they're at the same team, and Martinez is going to come back with a World Cup. He might be like, fuck this guy. I can go anywhere. So it's going to be interesting to see if he does stay over there. I would like him to stay. He seems like the type of dude that would stay if he did get along with the coach.
Yeah, I don't know if they necessarily hate each other. Some of those loans were before Emery got there. And if I was a keeper who wasn't playing, I'd want to be loaned out. And who like those loans, whether he likes it or not at the time, they've led him to where he is today. Who knows if his career would have panned out the way it did because if he'd have got put in the Arsenal team before he was ready and he fucked up a bunch and then he got dropped, he probably would have ended up dropping down the leagues or going abroad or something. So whatever happened in his career path led him to get in the team when he did. It led to the move to Villa. It led to getting in the Argentina team. It led to him eventually winning a World Cup. So, the whole butterfly effect thing, who knows if something different, if it's something had been slightly different in his past, who knows if he would have ended up where he ended up.
His life is literally one of those Instagram quotes. You know what I mean? Like it's going to get tougher before it gets easier. Right before you give up, that's when the thing is going to happen. And it's like, it's literally some of the loans to clubs that you would never feel like a World Cup winning goalkeeper of that caliber would ever be at before they end up on the same team with Messi and helping Messi get so he's definitely
Rotherham,
like
Reading.
So
it's
it should be appreciated to Unai. Unai, good evening, Emery, for sending them out like that. We got Arsenal versus West Ham. It's another interesting Battle of London thing going on. I got to check and see where West Ham is at the table, but it's around this time when West Ham starts kind of getting their shit together for the season. So
they started to just before the break. They started really badly at the start of the season, then they seem to have picked up not long before the break.
So you figure Arsenal will be facing. We're trying to get our ish together. West Ham right now they're like 16th, I think, at the table. That's what this thing says. So let's see, and it's going to be an Arsenal without Gabriel Jesus. And did they have many people in the World Cup? Gabriel Jesus, Xhaka.
Martinelli was for Brazil.
Martinelli was for Brazil, but he only played in like one game-ish or two.
Partey was for Ghana.
He got injured though. He never played for Ghana, I don't think.
He played at least one game. I saw him playing one game.
All right.
I don't know exactly what happened to him, but
I didn't hear his name a lot. Like when I saw Ghana play, so that's gonna be.
Ben White got sent home from England. I think there's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
I don't know fully what that was. So there was that. Gabriel was in the Brazil squad, I think, but didn't play.
Right.
Or did he not make the Brazil squad? I can't remember, because obviously if he did, he wasn't first
Martinelli?
choice that much. I know the defender Gabriel.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he made it actually.
Yeah. Saliba was with France, so then he definitely just got back, so he may or may not feature. I mean, he was
didn't
training
really play,
with
did
them.
he? So yeah.
Nah, he played one game, I think. Came in at the end of like one game or something. So we'll see. That's going to be interesting. But Arteta is going to hey, without Gabriel Jesus, just psychologically, if you drop points and City gets closer to you, and you won't have Gabriel coming back in for a minute, Gabriel Jesus, might put some pressure on these young players that they never felt before and that they might not be able to handle. And that's where the beginning of the end could start for them as far as them being able to win the title. And they got to make it to January, which is not far from here, to I'm sure they've been going through the pages of Tumblr for players to see who they might get. So they're gonna have to spend some money to keep this lead 100%.
I've not seen them linked with any strikers though. I've seen them linked with Mudryk from Shakhtar, who's a winger. He's a goal-scoring winger, but he's not a centre forward. Unless they want to move Martinelli in as a centre forward and play Mudryk out wide if they signed him. But I've seen them linked with him and Tielemans are the main two that they've been linked with. Tielemans obviously, Leicester at the moment, but his contract's up in the summer, so they might be trying to get some money for him while they can.
Right. This Chelsea-Bournemouth game is interesting, just because Graham Potter has to start winning. And if he doesn't win this game, a game everyone expects him to win, like Chelsea fans who are used to successful Chelsea coaches are going to just start losing the little faith that they had left in him. And I feel like he could be a good Chelsea coach in the future, but he has to make it to that future by winning games like this.
Yeah.
So good luck, Potter.
Bournemouth had a little bit of they had some nice form just before the World Cup break as well. They had some players that were coming into form. Like one of the ones who was sort of doing stuff there, who came out of nowhere a little bit, was Tavernier. One of their wingers. He scored a couple of goals just before the break. He was looking good. Solanke had started to show up a little bit for them as well. They had Big Kiefer Moore, the Wales forward, was coming off the bench and causing problems just because he's huge. So yeah, and Gary O'Neill's got the contract full time there now as well. So it'd be interesting to see, what he's been working on over the break, and that'd be an interesting game to see if they can cause. Because if they start well, Chelsea had some jitters before the World Cup, so. But like you say, it's time for Potter to really show that he belongs at that level now. Because I think Chelsea fans are nervous. The one we know certainly is.
Yeah, like they're 8th. That's unheard of for Chelsea. Last time.
I mean, they've done it a couple of times when Mourinho went off a cliff and when Conte went off a cliff. They've kind of been in those positions.
Those were name brand coaches, and they got fired. Those were the Balenciaga and Gucci of coaches, and they tossed them out. So Graham Potter hasn't achieved nothing close to what these guys have. So even though it's a different ownership, we'll see what the temperature, like how low is this Todd Bowley group? Like how much can they take before they, maybe them being in America, I don't know where Todd Bowley's been and how much he hears from the Chelsea fans, so that also will have some effect on how. But Graham Potter has to win this game, just has to, no question.
Yeah,
and he has returning players from the World Cup too, so that might be an issue. Like, I don't know what they got. Did you beat them in a preseason game? Who beat them? Was it Villa? I think it was Villa.
Villa did, because that was when Broja did a ACL for Chelsea. It's a pretty terrible day for them.
Yeah, and they lost. Yeah, they lost Broja. So, it's not going to be easy for Chelsea and Potter. The only thing I want to say about Man United versus Tottenham is it's at home. We're playing a lot of home games. I mean, Man United, my bad.
Who you playing?
Nottingham Forest.
Forest, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so Jesse Lingard returns, and everybody that Nottingham Forest has bought over the summer, they're all coming through. I don't know how many of their players are at the World Cup. Not that many, so they probably had some good times together training.
I take it Henderson can't play because he's a loanee.
Oh yeah. So he can't play here good.
So they're gonna have some backup goalie in.
That's a good thing. Yeah, we'll take that. Yeah, I don't want any slip ups here. And that's a good thing we played that Burnley game, and we played a lot of players. In the Burnley game, Harry Maguire was sick, so Casemiro played center back. I don't think Varane is going to be back. He just played a World Cup final. And I don't know if Harry Maguire is still going to be sick. Definitely Martinez ain't going to be back because he just won a World Cup final. So we're going to be missed. But Delao, he didn't play.
He got injured, I think.
Yeah, so he's
in the World
injured.
Cup.
Shaw came in. We got
just
Lindelof.
Just Lindelof on his own.
It's just Lindelof on his own. Maybe drop Casemiro back. Well, maybe
still
play
got
the same midfield.
You still got a Phil Jones there? Can you open up the cupboard and dust him off?
Bro, bro, I was thinking about that. And when you have to think about that, that's not good. You know, no disrespect to Phil Jones, but yeah. I mean, obviously, our guy, Ten Hag, doesn't want to play him. That's why he dropped Casemiro back against Burnley to defend her. So it's not just me, it's you, Phil. So this is going to be interesting just to see who we play, who we think is fit. And let's, it's funny, man. I'm watching a lot of Man United games, and the formation that first started us on our streak of wins, we haven't, not the formation, but the players in the positions. We've done a lot of reconfiguring. There's been no consistent, like Ronaldo's gone now. So this is United without Ronaldo. Sancho is still in Holland, getting his mind and physicality together. So I don't think he'll be back for this game. And so there's going to be young Garnacho with more pressure. People expecting a lot more from him just because of that flashes he showed before the break. And playing with expectation is a lot different than when you're just surprising people. And then he played a little bit against Burnley, Anthony, but people are going to be expecting more from him. Rashford showed up against there was Elanga and then Marshall. So we should be all right for this game with forwards. But yeah, we have to, at home, we should be able to pull this off, but it's not going to be easy because Nottingham Forest ain't trying to get relegated either, as much as the fans say they will be at the service station. They gonna
well, I'm cheering for you in this game. So,
all right, let's see if we can help Southampton out. And then the last game is going to be super interesting because Leeds gave us some thrillers before the season ended prematurely for the World Cup, and there were some players that were shining and that they're exciting, and they've blown. And we want to see these players, and they're going to be up against Man City, who just beat Liverpool, and they got a Haaland, who's very effective, and he's had some time to work back in with De Bruyne and Mahrez and all the other players that just came back. So I'm rooting for Leeds for sure because I want Jesse March to do good, but this is going to be tough, even though they're playing at home. And I guess Jesse Marsh used to coach Haaland at
Salzburg.
At Salzburg, yeah. So I think there was like a joke. He said, "Hey man, I want you to be injured for this match. Just tweak your hamstring," or something like a joke like that. But yeah,
it'd be interesting as well because like people know a lot more about the Leeds players now, like because like you were saying with Garnacho was like he was a surprise, and then people have learned about him now. There's an expectation there. I think they're getting that at Leeds now with like Somerville he came out of nowhere.
Yeah, we know what a Somerville is now.
Exactly, the young Dutch kid. So City would have looked at that, whereas previously he was a bit more of an unknown quantity. So yeah, they got some good young players. Leeds, they play with a lot of energy. So I'm looking forward to watching that game. That'll be there's a lot of entertainment I think to be had on this first round of fixtures. There's some really good games. Yeah, I think that one on Wednesday will be really fun.
Yeah, that's what I call that game, fun. Like, yeah, I'm watching that. That shit should be fun as shit. Yeah.
Yeah, if Ivan Toney was betting on it, I think he'd be betting on goals. That'd be the Ivan Toney tip over 2.5 goals. I think in that game, if you're betting on that one.
It's hilarious. Yeah, Leeds will be open, so Ivan. Yeah, it's hilarious. Anything else you want to talk about? That's like pretty much covered all the games.
No, that's it for me. I'm just looking forward to getting back into it. Just that routine starting again as well, because the games will come thick and fast. They're obviously trying to cram them all in after the break. We got a lot of football to be played still this season, so yeah, just hoping we can pull ourselves up off the bottom of the league. Hopefully the new manager's up to the task, and yeah, it's just going to be fun to just watch the games again though. Like, you know, they're coming, like I say, they're coming thick and fast now.
You know, it's funny because of the England football schedule. Like when I was a kid, I used to go to bed early because you want to wake up on Christmas morning and open the gifts. But because of football, you go to bed early Christmas night so you can wake up early enough to watch the games at 4:30 a.m. in LA. It's like almost the reverse. Or maybe, you know, but yeah, this should be it's good to have it back. It's different though, because I am kind of missing the energy of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Like even though I watch most of the games at home, you know, and sometimes Martin came through, there's a certain energy just in your life when the World Cup goes on. And especially that World Cup where everything was so centralized. Like it just had this vibe. And then people traveled there. There was all these vlogs on YouTube. So I could just watch like everybody's different experience there. And it was mostly positive. So I had that energy of the games, which were, it was only like really one bad game. And it was like the opening game. But after that, like that World Cup pretty much took off. And so, yeah, I kind of miss that energy. And I'm like, can the Premier League replace that energy? I don't know.
I think it will, just through sheer volume of games though, because like we said, we got Boxing Day, we got the 27th, then there's the 28th and the 29th. Like there's games all over, and oh no, not 29th, sorry. Wednesday 28th, and then there's only a 1 day break, and then Friday the 30th there's 2 games, and then New Year's Eve there's 1, 2, 3, there's 6 games on New Year's Eve, and then there's 2 on New Year's Day. Like I think, yeah, I mean, whether or not it brings the same energy to the World Cup, the schedules is relentless, so it will just batter you into submission.
It'll just take over. Yeah,
exactly.
I won't
It's a
have
machine.
a choice.
So yeah.
Well, Premier League is back, everybody. Hope you all enjoy it. Football continues in a different form, but it's still football. And yeah, the World Cup is officially over. And yeah, the Premier League is officially back. And we love you. Merry Christmas. Have a good one. And we'll see you with podcast Monday, right? Yeah, we'll put it out. All right, Lee. Peace. Have a good Merry Christmas.
Cheers.
I know you're gonna do it with the family.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, spend it with the family. So yeah, it'll be a nice one. And yeah, Merry Christmas to all the listeners, all the watchers.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll re-pick up fantasy football as well after the Boxing Day games. See who's got back into it strong or not.
yeah, definitely. And then also for the people, like we had some good Twitter space talks too. And people joined, some that listened to the podcast and some that didn't. We did it for the semifinals. And you know, shout out to them. I'm still in communication with some people from there, so we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, man, Merry Christmas to everybody. One love. Have a great one. Have fun time with your families and everything. And we'll see you. All right, fam. Peace.